Hello fellow kiteboarders. So this is a very raw review of the 2022 North Navigator bar. I've purchased this bar as a replacement for my Liquid Force Response bar, to which I can no longer find replacement parts since the company went out of business. I didn't want to spend a ton of money on a bar, and I didn't want anything too complicated, so I purchased this from Real about 3 weeks ago, and I've used it I think 3 or 4 times now. I do not, so just a spoiler, I do not like this bar. I wanted to return it, but Rio would not take it back since I used it one day. I tried to return it after one session. So let's go over the things that I like and do not like about the bar. So the first, let's go do the things I like. I really like the aesthetics of the bar. I think it's nice and understated, kind of goes with my style. The feel is very nice. This material seems to be good. The quality, apparent quality, looks good. There is a nice protrusion feature here on the grip, so you can feel if you are holding it 180 degrees out of phase here. Basically, this protrusion you feel on the inside of your palm, so it's pretty easy to tell if it needs to be reversed, even if you can't see it. The lines I think are pretty nice quality. Again, it's hard to say, not having this bar a very long time, how they'll hold up. There's a couple things I do not like about the lines. So first is the very strange, at least in my opinion, decision to put 10 and 12 meter sections here for a total of 22 meters. I would have found something like an 8 meter and 4 meter extension much more useful, at least for my use case. The other thing I do not like about the lines is that the center lines are set up like many bars just for North's kites. So if you have different brands of kites that have Lark's head on the center lines, the front lines, then you will need to buy a gender changer. For some reason, I don't understand why North wouldn't have spent the extra half a penny putting a universal attachment point on these center lines, which would have completely eliminated that issue for everybody. The other thing that I do like is that it is a variable length bar, so you can adjust the length of this bar. You wouldn't be doing this with gloves. It's difficult to pull out, but you have these features that you can rotate 180 degrees and it'll change the bar length by 5 centimeters. So this is either a 55 or a 50 centimeter bar, depending on how you have this set. The other thing that I like is basically these line retention points, especially this grab point is really nice. With some other bars, when I'm wearing gloves, I find it very difficult to pull that out. And here it's quite easy. The overall feel here feels really good. Let's see what else. The other part that I really like about this is the quick release mechanism. It's probably one of the best that I've seen, or it's definitely up there. Very easy to quick release. It comes undone. It's very easy also to re-engage. So it's basically a one-handed operation. Works almost every time. There is a particular orientation here which I did notice here, like that it won't completely come down on sometimes, but a pretty minor complaint there, especially compared to some of the other bars like the dual tone that have the lever inside that sometimes gets put into a position where you cannot do a single-handed reconnect operation. The other thing about this that I really like is the fact that these chicken loops are interchangeable, very easy to replace or change. So basically you pull down this grommet here and let's see if I can do that. I don't think you'd be doing this with gloves either. Basically rotate it 45 degrees or so, and then it comes out and you can swap in either like longer no chicken dick loops or rope loop, and that is a really cool feature. So right now I have the shortest loop on here, and the reason for that I'll get to in a moment, but I am using this in a okay, so that came together really nice. There is also a swivel here on the center line, the safety line, so it will not should not get tangled up very much inside this sheath, which is great. Now let's get on to the things that I do not like about this bar, and unfortunately there's more of those than there are that I like. So first of all, the only way you can change the reach on this bar is by switching out the chicken loops. So I'm 5'10". I found this throw just a little bit too long. It wasn't a big deal, but it was enough to get me to buy the small chicken loop, which was another, I think, $30 or so. So on top of the bar price, if you want different chicken loops, consider that in your decision. There is no stopper, so there's not going to be any cruise control. But again, what's worse is that there's no way to adjust where this cleat is for throw, which is a nice feature on some of the other bars. And being able to do that, I don't think would have been very difficult to implement here, either with a stopper ball or again, and some adjustment feature on the cleat mechanism here. Let's go on here. This is also a problem that I really have with this bar. So a lot of times when I depower, it will form this loop here, and because there's no retention mechanism on this piece, it basically can go through here, and now you've got yourself a potentially hazardous situation here. Maybe not hazardous, but definitely very annoying. And you can see things can start to get out of whack really quick when things get out of control. Now, because there's no retention mechanism, if you happen to be flying fully depowered, this thing is going to whack you on the knuckles. Now, it's made out of foam, not a big deal, but it gets super annoying after a while, just flopping around. I don't understand, again, why North did not spend a few extra cents to either put some Velcro on here or a magnet or some way to keep this from flopping around. It does have the elastic, which is great, like many of the modern bars. Let's see here. So the line distances I mentioned already. The retention mechanism I mentioned, and the fact that it can create a loop. I also mentioned that I don't like the fact that it didn't come with universal pigtails on the lines. The other thing I want to mention is it did come with a repair tool in the box, which looked like to me like a little owl, but there was absolutely zero explanation what that particular tool is used for. It did come with a short safety leash, which is great. I don't run I'm basically hooked in most of the time here. And the one deal breaker for me with this bar is the swivel, or the lack thereof. So if you purchase this bar, make sure you try it under tension, because this is by far, sans not having any kind of swivel at all, this is by far the worst swivel I've come across. There is it almost resists, and I wish there was an objective way I could show you how difficult this is to unwind these center bars, and it really ruins the enjoyment of kiting, especially if I'm doing a long downwinder and I'm looping my kite a lot. I feel, or at least I have felt, that I'm unwinding bars more than, or I'm unwinding these front lines more than I'm kiting. I cannot stress enough, at least how, for me, annoying this is. And again, there's no bearings in here. I don't think you can fix this problem by, you know, squirting some lubricant, because the lubricant will just get washed away, and it'll also become a dirt magnet, a sand magnet for this. Again, I would expect that any type of recent bar would at least not fight you in terms of unwinding the front lines, and it feels like this bar does that. So for me, that's a huge deal breaker. Again, make sure that you're okay with that if you do decide to purchase this bar. It has a lot of cool features, but I think really just spending a few more, I don't know, maybe $1 or $2 more, adding some retention for the depower line, adding universal pigtails, and putting you know, some kind of reasonable swivel mechanism in here, so it's not fighting you, would have really gone a long way. As it is, I do need to get rid of this bar. Unfortunately, like I mentioned before, Real won't take it back because it was used once. So make sure you try it, maybe rent it, or see if you can borrow it from a buddy and try it to see if you're okay with this swivel mechanism and some of the other cons that I pointed out earlier. Aside from that, thanks for watching. Hope you learned something, and hope this was useful for at least a couple of kiteboarders out there. Otherwise, kite safe, and I'll catch you later.